In all great stories, there are kings and there are pawns. In modern pop culture, these become things like Darth Vader and a bunch of stormtroopers. Classic stormtroopers. We're going with, classic trilogy stormtroopers here. Or, Sauron and his giant, ugly orc army. But it's not limited to bad guys. There's, Captain Kirk and his red shirts, the guys he sends into battle for him. Or, the good guys have elven armies to, not be all sci-fi. Or Ewoks, right? Yes. Armies of Ewoks. We all love armies of Ewoks. Well, I'm Scott ToyGuru Neitlich, and today on Spectre Creative's Director's Commentary for Masters of the Universe Classics, we're going to be talking about the first army builder of Masters of the Universe Classics, the Palace Guard, a good guy army builder that was going to supply an entire army of characters to join the fight. Now, army building is all over Masters of the Universe as a brand. Skeletor has his Skelecons, as introduced in the Lady Bird books, as well as those flying robots from Filmation. And King Randor has his Palace Guards that he sends into battle to go do heroic things, because that's what guards do. They guard things and follow the orders of the king. Now, they never had a Palace Guard figure in the vintage line, even though they did feature prominently in Filmation. And, people have even gone and done custom versions of this, using Man-at-Arms as kind of a base, because his armor is kind of a one-off of the Palace Guard armor, with the yellow or the green skin suit. But finally having legitimate Palace Guards to flank He-Man or King Randor is definitely a first for the Masters of the Universe brand, and I was so excited to do this with Classics, because that's what Classics was all about. It was breaking new ground. Now, why would you want to army build? Why would you want tons of the same guy? Well, most people who are buying Masters of the Universe Classics are displaying them, as opposed to, going on the ground and saying, I'm going to beat you. And when you create a display, having background characters, having, guards there in the background, help complete a display and really make it come alive. So that's not just about the main characters, but, you have those background guys that make it feel like a scene from life, if you will. And we wanted to make sure that fans who were displaying their figures, which we knew was the quote-unquote play pattern of Masters of the Universe Classics, were going to have lots of options. And that's why we chocked the Palace Guards pack full of more weapons, armor plating, face masks, heads than any other figure we had done previously. And when I'm saying we had a lot of different options and a lot of armor, I mean, I'm talking just like a redonkulous amount. There's I don't even know the full, I should probably count it. I should have done that before I recorded this video, but there was a lot. And that was going to let you do a lot of customization. Now, this figure set also meant we had to have a new box because we didn't have a blister for two figures. So in addition to the beasts, which also needed their own box, we had to create a brand new two-figure package that would later go on for other two packs and other army builders. That was kind of the idea, is once you invest in the pack, then you now have that structure to use and reuse. And with a new pack and a new army builder, we were pretty much set to sell this one to the fans. And we knew that fans were going to want to buy, if you will, more than one, because that's kind of the whole idea of an army builder, is you want to have an army. So we wanted to make sure we produced quite a few of these. We may have produced a few too many. He stuck around for longer than anticipated, because we wanted to make more than we had subscribers for, knowing that people would probably want to buy more than one. And to make display fun for more than one, we did multiple heads. So you had the, I guess you could say, the Caucasian head. You had the black head, the Eternian, African Eternian, I guess I've been calling this, because, there's no Earth here. So you had a white guy, you had a black guy, and then because Eternia is a very diverse planet, we also threw in a cat, which was Acadian, and this was the Four Horsemen. We just said do 4 heads, and they're the ones who came up with these ideas. And then the final one was a reptile creature, which I think puzzled a lot of people for a long time, why there would be a reptile palace guard. And the idea behind this one was in the final episode of 2000X, which was done as a pack-in mini-comic. It is revealed that Man-at-Arms reverts back to being a Snake Man permanently, and this was from a logistics standpoint so that the Snake Man would have an inventor who could make vehicles, so that Mattel could sell Snake vehicles if the line hadn't prematurely ended. So the idea of these Snake Warriors, these were going to be like Snake Man-at-Arms personal guards. So when we eventually got the Snake Man-at-Arms, he could also have his troopers, if you will. Like he was going to have King Hiss infect some of the palace guards and turn them into his like personal assistants and his like strike force, if you will, when he became a Snake Man. So yeah, that covers all the different heads. We had lots of heads, lots of armor. The armor was interchangeable, just like the battle armor figures, where you could swap out for damaged or plain, or give them the lieutenant eagle symbol. And it was it was great. It was total customization. You could give them other accessories from the weapons packs, switch out those plates, and it was a great figure set. All right, so I should talk about one of the first elephants in the room, and you'll note in the bio it mentions a Lieutenant Spectre. So why is it Lieutenant Spectre? You're probably familiar with Mighty Spectre. We'll get to him in a minute. Well, the reason is one of the heads, not the Cadian head or the reptile head, the Snake Man head, but the white dude, because look, I'm Caucasian. That's me. I was sculpted as the head. There's a picture of me, and you can compare that to the action figure. I mocked it up a little bit to make it look even more like me by giving him glasses that I guess you could say borrowed off of a Ghostbuster Egon figure. So I don't know. My mother doesn't think it looks like me, but I think the Horseman did a great job. And wow, it was such an honor to get to quote unquote be an action figure. And this isn't something that's unheard of. Lots of people in the industry, G.I. Joe is notorious for this. Almost the entire vintage line is full of Hasbro employees. And this was my voyage to EGOTing in the toy industry, which of course is not Oscar, Grammy, Tony. It is getting a figure of yourself, getting a figure you create, and getting a figure named after you, which everyone loves to try to acquire. And it was not my attempt to Mary Sue myself into the line, despite some criticism. And I totally get that, but honestly, and I will defend my position, I was working on Masters of the Universe Classics on my own. It was not my full-time job. My full-time job was running DC, and the DC movies and the DC Classics figures. The work I did on MOTU Classics was at home on the weekends. And eventually, when we did the 30th anniversary collection, I was given a slot to do my own figure, continuing in that whole EGOT joke there. And I released a figure I created when I was a kid playing with He-Man, which was the Mighty Spectre. And the thing was, since I'd named the Palace Guard Lieutenant Spectre, which was basically my way of getting that name of my childhood hero into the line, I had no idea at the time that I was going to get to do Mighty Spectre. I was going to get to create my own He-Man character. I mean, never in my wildest dreams did I think this was going to happen. But when management gave me one of the 6 slots for employees, and I'll get into like how those slots work when I do a whole video on the 30th anniversary line, but essentially I was given one of those slots, and of course I wanted to do my childhood creation and make him Mighty Spectre, but the problem was we already had Lieutenant Spectre, and I thought it was weird to have 2 Spectres in the line, so I just made them the same character. I basically said Lieutenant Spectre becomes Mighty Spectre. And again, this was not my attempt to Mary Sue myself into the line, even though the face sculpt was meant to look like me. If I knew I was going to be doing a Mighty Spectre figure, I would have never A, called the other character Lieutenant Spectre, or probably even have agreed with the whole me being the head sculpt. I had no idea at the time I was going to get to do both. So it was, what can I say? It was fate. It was how things worked. All right, so I want to end this video with a mistake I made, because I'm always want to clarify things I made. So you'll notice the Palace Guards there have legs, feet that are the boot, the full, like, shiny armored boot. Well, the horsemen, because they are geniuses and amazing, actually originally had two different versions of the guard. One version of the guard was going to have the armor boot, and the second guard body in the box was going to have the furry boot, which you see here from one of the early prototypes. When I saw this, I thought it was a mistake. I thought the vendor made a mistake, and they were both supposed to have the armor boot, and I told them to correct that, not realizing this was something the horsemen intended to have even more variety in the guards. One guard would have a furry boot, and one guard would have the armor boot. So I totally screwed that up, thinking that when I saw the furry boot come as one of the first samples, that this was a mistake, and I didn't bother to go back and look at the horsemen's original plan. So I am so sorry, horsemen. You had this plan, and I screwed it up. So that's why. But hey, you know, there is something to be said about all of the army members looking the same, because that's kind of what army building is all about. And that's what this video is all about. I hope you enjoyed the figure. I hope he helps with your dioramas and your play. And I'll see you for the next video on the continuing director's commentary of Masters of the Universe Classics.